Don't leave him alone. Please, somebody call 911. The little girl's voice cut across the bright Saturday noise of Piedmont Park, sharper than the bicycle bells, louder than the dogs barking near the walking trail, and urgent enough to make half a dozen strangers turn their heads. 9-year-old Noah Whitmore lay beside a green wooden bench, one arm resting awkwardly across the grass, his baseball cap several feet away near the edge of the path. A moment earlier, he had been walking alone beneath the tall oak trees, moving too quickly as if he were trying to catch up with someone or escape being noticed. Then his steps had slowed. His hand had reached for the strap of his navy backpack. His knees had weakened, and he had folded to the ground without a cry. Now people gathered in a loose circle, close enough to stare but too far away to help. One man lifted his phone. A woman pulled her toddler behind her. A jogger slowed, glanced once, and kept moving. Only Amara Brooks ran toward him. She was 8 years old, small for her age, with deep brown skin, neatly braided hair, and a faded yellow t-shirt beneath denim overalls. A bracelet of blue glass beads circled her left wrist, catching pieces of sunlight as she dropped to her knees several feet from Noah. Her grandmother had taught her 3 rules for emergencies: stay calm, call for help, and never make the person feel alone. Amara pressed her palms against the grass to steady herself and looked at Noah's face. His eyes were closed. His breathing was there, but it sounded thin and uneven beneath the noise of the crowd. "Can you hear me?" she asked. "My name is Amara. Help is coming." No answer came, but she kept speaking because silence felt like another kind of danger. "You're in the park. You're not by yourself. I'm right here." A woman in white tennis clothes stepped forward, then stopped. "Sweetheart, don't touch him," she warned. "You could make something worse." Amara looked up without moving closer to Noah. "Then call somebody who knows what to do." The woman blinked. "I thought someone already did." "Did you see them call?" Amara asked. No one answered. She pointed toward a man holding his phone. "Sir, please call 911 and tell them a boy collapsed near the lake trail, close to the stone fountain." The man lowered his camera, embarrassed, and finally began dialing. Amara turned back to Noah. His backpack lay partly open near the bench, one strap twisted beneath it. She noticed that his fingers were curled toward the empty space beside him, as though he had been reaching for something before he fell. A plastic water bottle had rolled into the grass. Near it, the contents of one front pocket were scattered across the ground: a folded map, a granola bar, a small packet of tissues, and a card printed with red letters. The wind flipped the card over before Amara could read it. "The ambulance is coming," the man announced. "They said 6 minutes." 6 minutes sounded enormous. Amara glanced at the afternoon sun shining directly across Noah's face. Without touching him, she pulled off her old canvas backpack, placed it upright near his head, and angled it so the shadow covered his eyes. "What are you doing?" the woman in tennis clothes demanded. "Keeping the sun off him," Amara replied. "He doesn't need more heat." The woman frowned, but she did not stop her. Somewhere beyond the trees, a siren began to rise and fall. The sound was distant, then closer, weaving through traffic outside the park. Noah's phone started ringing inside his backpack. The vibration buzzed against the zipper, stopped, then began again. Amara looked at the screen glowing through the opening. One word appeared above a photograph of a serious-looking man in a dark suit. "Dad." She hesitated. Adults had rules about other people's phones, but emergencies had different rules. She reached toward the backpack, and a voice from the crowd snapped behind her. "Hey, what are you taking?" Amara froze. A young man in running clothes had stepped forward, suspicion already tightening his face. "I'm not taking anything," she said. "His dad is calling." "Then leave it," he replied. "The paramedics will handle it." The phone stopped ringing. Amara looked back at Noah. His lips moved slightly, though no sound came. Then his hand shifted against the grass, searching again. "He might be trying to tell us something," she said. The runner shook his head. "You don't know him." "Neither do you," Amara answered. "But that doesn't mean we walk away." The sirens grew louder. 2 park officers appeared at the far end of the path, waving people aside. As they approached, Amara noticed something half-hidden beneath the bench, pushed deep into the shadow near one of the metal legs. It was a small black pouch with a bright medical symbol printed on the side. Noah's empty hand was turned toward it. Amara leaned to see more clearly. The pouch was too far beneath the bench for Noah to have dropped it where he fell. It looked as though someone had kicked or thrown it there. "There's something under the bench," she said. No one listened. The officers were asking questions. The crowd began talking all at once. Amara moved around the edge of the bench, reached beneath it, and pulled out the pouch. The moment she held it up, the runner pointed at her. "I saw that," he shouted. She was going through his things. Several faces turned toward Amara. Suspicion moved through the crowd faster than concern had. She clutched the pouch against her chest, the blue beads on her wrist trembling in the sunlight. Then Noah's phone rang again, and the word "Dad" lit the screen as the ambulance doors opened at the end of the path. The ambulance crew reached Noah first, but Amara did not move until one of the paramedics looked directly at her and asked, "What happened?" The question steadied her. She held out the black pouch with both hands. He fell near the bench. He was breathing, but he would not wake up. "I found this underneath." The paramedic took it, opened the zipper, and his expression changed. "Good job finding this," he said. He turned to his partner. "Medical alert supplies are inside." The runner who had accused Amara shifted his weight and looked away. The woman in tennis clothes crossed her arms, uncertain now. Noah's phone kept ringing from inside the backpack. The screen still showed the same word, "Dad." A park officer picked it up, but before he could answer, Noah made a faint sound. Amara leaned closer, careful not to cross into the space where the paramedics were working. "You are not alone," she said again. "Your dad is calling." Noah's eyelids fluttered. For 1 second, his gaze found the blue bracelet on her wrist. His lips moved, but the words were barely there. "Do not let them," then his eyes closed again. The paramedic asked everyone to step back. Amara obeyed, retreating toward the edge of the path as the stretcher was brought forward. The park officer answered the phone. "This is Officer Marcus Reed with Atlanta Park Police. Are you Daniel Whitmore?" The voice on the other end was loud enough that Amara heard the panic beneath its control. "Where's my son?" Officer Reed gave the location and explained that Noah was being transported to Piedmont Medical Center. There was a pause, followed by a sharp command. "Put someone from the ambulance on the phone." The officer handed the phone over, and Amara watched the paramedic speak in quick, measured sentences. Across downtown Atlanta, Daniel Whitmore stood at the head of a glass conference table with 12 executives watching him. A financial report remained frozen on the wall behind him. He had spent years teaching himself not to react before understanding the facts, but the moment he heard the word unconscious, every number in the room became meaningless. "I am coming now," he said. He left without his notes, without his jacket, and without answering the assistant who hurried after him. By the time Daniel's black sport utility vehicle reached the park entrance, the ambulance was still there. Traffic had trapped it behind 2 patrol cars while officers cleared the lane. Daniel stepped out before the driver came to a full stop. He crossed the grass in polished shoes, his white shirt open at the collar, his face drained of its usual certainty. "Noah," he shouted. The crowd turned. The name carried authority, fear, and something close to regret. Officer Reed met him near the stretcher. "Mr. Whitmore, your son is stable enough for transport. The medical team is working with information from his emergency pouch." Daniel looked at the pouch, then at the gathered strangers. "Who found it?" Officer Reed pointed toward Amara. She stood several feet away beside her old backpack, one hand wrapped around the blue bracelet. Daniel's eyes moved over her worn sneakers, her braids, and the cautious way the crowd had left an empty space around her. He walked toward her, but the runner stepped in first. "Sir, you should know she was going through your son's things." Daniel stopped. The fear in his chest hardened into suspicion. "What did you take from my son?" he asked. Amara looked up at him. His voice was not loud, but it was cold enough to silence everyone nearby. She did not lower her eyes. "Nothing. Someone saw you with his bag. I saw his phone ringing." "And the pouch?" Daniel asked. "It was under the bench." The runner shook his head. "I saw her reach for it." Amara turned toward him. "You saw me find it. That is not the same thing." One of the paramedics closed the ambulance doors, then stepped toward Daniel. "Mr. Whitmore, that pouch contained information we needed. She may have saved us valuable time." Daniel looked at Amara again, but doubt still held him. "Why were you near him?" She answered without hesitation. "Because everyone else was standing far away." The words landed harder than accusation. Behind Daniel, the ambulance engine rose. Amara lifted her chin and added, "I did not take anything from your son. I picked up the thing everyone else walked past." Daniel's expression shifted, But before he could respond, the rear door opened again. Noah had stirred. One paramedic leaned out and called for Daniel. Daniel rushed to the ambulance. Inside, Noah's eyes opened only halfway. His voice was weak, but the words were clear enough. The girl with the blue bracelet. Daniel turned. Amara stood beneath the oak trees, sunlight flashing across the beads on her wrist. She stayed, Noah whispered. Then the doors closed between them. The ambulance pulled away from the park with Daniel seated beside Noah, one hand gripping the metal rail and the other resting near his son without quite touching him. The siren filled the narrow space, rising and falling as Atlanta traffic opened ahead of them. Noah remained pale beneath the soft ceiling lights, his eyes closed again, but his breathing had become steadier. Daniel watched every movement of his chest, as if counting each breath could keep it from disappearing. Across from him, the paramedic checked the black emergency pouch Amara had found and compared the information inside with the monitor beside the stretcher. This helped us understand what we were dealing with, he said. Your son was fortunate someone noticed it. Daniel looked toward the rear doors, though the park had already vanished behind them. He could still see Amara standing beneath the oak trees with sunlight caught in the blue beads around her wrist. He could also hear the coldness in his own voice when he had asked what she took. The memory sat heavily in his chest. At Piedmont Medical Center, Noah was moved through a private entrance and into an examination room before Daniel had time to call anyone. Nurses crossed the bright hallway with quiet speed. Machines hummed behind closed doors. Daniel stood outside the treatment room in his wrinkled white shirt, his phone vibrating over and over in his hand. His assistant called. The board chairman called. 3 executives sent urgent messages. Daniel silenced every one of them. A woman in a charcoal suit appeared at the end of the hallway less than 20 minutes later. Claire Donovan moved quickly but never looked rushed. She had managed Daniel's public image for 6 years and could turn almost any crisis into a controlled statement. I came as soon as I heard, she said. How is Noah? They are still running tests. Was anyone with him? Daniel looked through the small window in the treatment room door. A girl found him. Claire lowered her voice. The police mentioned that. There are already videos online. Daniel turned toward her. Videos of what? Claire held up her phone. A short clip showed Amara kneeling beside Noah's backpack, reaching inside, then pulling out the black pouch. The angle was distant, and the recording began after Noah had already collapsed. It did not show the pouch beneath the bench. It did not show Amara asking for help. It did not show the crowd refusing to move closer. A caption across the screen claimed that an unidentified child had been caught searching through the belongings of a wealthy family. This is incomplete, Daniel said. It is still spreading, Claire replied. People are asking who she is and why she was near Noah. She found his medical pouch. That may be true, but we need to be careful. She could also have known who he was. Daniel stared at the video again. He watched Amara's hand disappear into the open backpack. He watched the pouch rise into view. Fear had made him suspicious at the park, and now the image gave that suspicion something solid to hold. Do we know anything about her? He asked. Her name is Amara Brooks. She is 8 years old. She lives with her grandmother about 2 miles from the park. Claire paused. There is no father listed at the residence. Daniel looked sharply at her. That does not matter. I agree, but the press will not be as careful. The safest option is no contact until we understand the full situation. The treatment room door opened before Daniel could answer. Dr. Hannah Cole stepped into the hallway and removed her glasses. Mr. Whitmore, your son is stable. He experienced a serious medical episode, but the immediate danger has passed. Daniel released a breath he had not realized he was holding. Can I see him? For a few minutes. He is tired and may be confused. Daniel entered the room quietly. Noah looked small beneath the white hospital blanket, his dark hair flattened against the pillow. Daniel pulled a chair close and sat down. Hey, buddy, he said. I am here. Noah opened his eyes slowly. For several seconds, he stared at the ceiling. Then his gaze moved to Daniel. Where is she? Who? The girl. Noah swallowed. The one with the blue bracelet. Daniel leaned forward. Her name is Amara. Did she come? No, Noah's brow tightened. Why not? Daniel glanced toward the glass wall where Claire waited outside. You need to rest. Noah turned his face toward him. She told me not to be scared. His voice was faint, but the certainty in it was clear. She said you were coming. Daniel lowered his eyes. I came. She stayed until you did. The words left no room for argument. Daniel reached for Noah's hand, but Noah looked toward the window instead. I remember her looking under the bench. He said. There was something there. Daniel felt the weight of Claire's phone in his pocket, though he had never touched it. Do you remember anything else? Someone took my pouch before I fell. Daniel went still. Who took it? Noah closed his eyes, searching through the broken pieces of memory. I do not know. I remember running. I remember the bench. Then I remember blue beads. His fingers moved weakly against the blanket. The video is missing something. Daniel looked through the glass at Claire. She was speaking quietly into her phone, already shaping a story he had not yet decided to believe. For the first time since arriving at the hospital, Daniel wondered whether the most dangerous mistake had happened before the ambulance came, or after he chose which version of the truth was easier to accept. Daniel waited until Dr. Hannah Cole confirmed that Noah would remain overnight for observation before he left the hospital. Claire followed him into the hallway, speaking in a low, controlled voice about statements, legal exposure, and the risk of allowing strangers near the family. Daniel heard every word, but none of them reached him as deeply as Noah's quiet sentence. The video is missing something. By late afternoon, the sky over Atlanta had turned silver, and a soft rain had begun to darken the sidewalks. Daniel sat in the back of his sport utility vehicle with a cream-colored envelope beside him. Inside was more money than most families could save in a year. He had told himself it was gratitude, not payment. Still, as the car moved away from the hospital and toward the older neighborhoods east of the park, the envelope began to feel less like generosity and more like a door he was trying to close. Amara lived in a narrow brick apartment building on a street lined with magnolia trees and small front porches. The building was clean but worn, with chipped steps and a faded brass number beside the entrance. Daniel climbed out beneath an umbrella held by his driver, then stopped. "Wait here," he said. He took the envelope and walked inside alone. The hallway smelled faintly of laundry soap and cinnamon. Somewhere above him, a radio played softly. He found apartment 3B and knocked. For several seconds, there was no answer. Then the door opened a few inches, and Amara looked out. She had changed into a purple sweatshirt, and her braids were tied back with a yellow ribbon. The blue bracelet was still around her wrist. When she recognized him, her expression did not brighten. "Mr. Whitmore," she said. "Is Noah awake?" Daniel had prepared several sentences during the drive, but her question erased all of them. "Yes, he is awake. The doctor says he is stable." Amara released a small breath and opened the door wider. "That is good." An older woman appeared behind her. Evelyn Brooks had silver hair cut close around her face and the steady posture of someone who had spent years in rooms where panic did not help. "I am Amara's grandmother," she said. "You may come in for a few minutes." Daniel stepped into a small living room warmed by 2 lamps and a space heater near the window. The furniture did not match, but everything was cared for. Books were stacked beneath the coffee table. A bowl of apples sat beside a sewing basket. On one wall, several handwritten papers had been taped in a neat row. Daniel noticed the words before he sat down. "Listen first. Help second. Never walk away." Amara took a seat beside her grandmother. Daniel remained standing for a moment, feeling too large for the room and strangely uncertain of where to put his hands. "I came to thank you," he said. He placed the envelope on the table. "For staying with Noah and for finding his medical pouch." Amara looked at the envelope but did not touch it. "I did not do it for money." "I understand," Daniel said. "This is not meant to suggest that you did." Evelyn's eyes settled on him. "Then what is it meant to suggest?" Daniel paused. In boardrooms, silence usually belonged to the weaker person. Here, it belonged to the truth. "That I am grateful," he said at last. Amara folded her hands in her lap. "Then you can say thank you." Daniel looked at her. "Thank you. You are welcome." She pushed the envelope gently back toward him. The movement was small, but it carried more authority than most decisions made in his office. "Please take it," he said. "It could help with school or anything you need." Amara shook her head. "No one needed help. That is different." Evelyn placed one hand over Amara's. "She knows the difference between kindness and a transaction." Daniel sat down slowly. He had expected pride, perhaps suspicion, but not this level of clarity from an 8-year-old. "You knew what to do at the park," he said. "Most adults did not." Amara glanced at her grandmother. "Grandma used to be a school nurse." She taught me what to do if someone gets sick or scared. Evelyn nodded. Nothing advanced. Call for help. Keep the area clear. Pay attention. Speak calmly. A child should never be expected to replace trained adults. She did more than the adults there, Daniel said. Because the adults were watching, Amara replied. They were waiting for someone else. Daniel looked again at the 3 rules on the wall. Listen first. Help second. Never walk away. Did you see what happened before Noah fell? He asked. Amara's expression changed. She looked toward the rain sliding down the window. I saw him running near the lake trail. He kept looking behind him. Was anyone following him? Some older boys were near the trees. I did not see everything. Did you see anyone take the pouch? Amara touched one blue bead with her thumb. No. I only saw where it ended up. Daniel leaned forward. There is a video online. It makes it look like you searched his bag. I know. Her voice remained steady, but the hurt beneath it was unmistakable. A girl at the grocery store showed me. It does not show the whole event. No, Amara said. But people like the part that lets them decide fast. Daniel lowered his eyes. She was not only talking about strangers online. She was talking about him at the park. I should not have accused you, he said. I was afraid. Amara looked directly at him. Being afraid does not make something true. The room fell quiet except for the rain and the faint hum of the heater. Daniel picked up the envelope and slipped it back inside his coat. Noah asked for you, he said. For the first time, Amara's guarded expression softened. He did. He remembered your bracelet. He said you stayed. Amara looked down at the blue beads. Is he still scared? Daniel opened his mouth, then stopped. He knew Noah's medical history, school schedule, security plan, and every name on his emergency contact list. Yet he did not know what his son feared when the room was dark, or why Noah had been running alone through the park, or why he believed part of the video was missing. I do not know, Daniel admitted. Amara nodded toward the papers on the wall. Then maybe you should listen first. Daniel followed her gaze, and for the first time in years, he understood that having every resource in the world did not mean he knew how to help the person closest to him. Daniel returned to the hospital just before sunset, carrying no envelope and no prepared speech. The rain had stopped, leaving the city lights reflected across the wet pavement outside the entrance. In the private room, Noah was sitting up against 2 pillows, a paper cup of apple juice untouched on the tray beside him. Dr. Hannah Cole had approved a short visit, provided Noah did not become tired. When Daniel entered, Noah looked toward the door behind him. Did she come? He asked. Daniel shook his head. Not yet. Noah's face fell, but only for a moment. Did you find her? Yes. Daniel pulled the chair closer. Her name is Amara Brooks. She lives with her grandmother. Noah turned the paper cup slowly between his hands. Is she in trouble? The question caught Daniel off guard. Why would she be in trouble? Because people thought she took my things. Daniel looked down at the blanket. Some people did. Did you? Noah asked. The room grew still. Daniel had negotiated billion-dollar contracts without losing control of his voice, but this question made him pause. At first, he admitted, I was scared, and I made a quick judgment. Noah studied him. She did not take anything. I know that now. Do you? Noah asked. Daniel heard Amara's voice in the question. Being afraid does not make something true. He leaned forward. Tell me what happened before you fell. Noah stared at the juice cup. His fingers tightened around it. You will get mad. I am going to listen. Noah looked up, testing the promise. There were 3 older boys near the lake trail. I had seen them before. From school. One of them goes to my school. The others are his friends. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he forced himself to remain quiet. Noah continued. They kept asking why I had a medical pouch. I told them it was private. They said I acted important because you were my father. He swallowed. Then one of them took it. Daniel's hands closed together. Did they hurt you? No, Noah said quickly. They just laughed and passed it around. I tried to get it back, but they threw it near the bench. I ran after it. Then everything got blurry. Daniel took a slow breath. Why did you not tell the park staff? Because they were gone before I could. Why did you not tell me before today? Noah looked toward the window. Because you would move me to another school. If someone is making you feel unsafe, I need to know. You do not fix things, Noah said quietly. You remove them. Daniel went still. Noah's voice trembled, but he kept going. When I said I did not like my last school, you transferred me. When I said the driver made me nervous, you fired him. When I said I wanted to walk in the park without security beside me, You added 2 more guards. I was protecting you. It does not feel like protection when I cannot breathe. The words entered the room softly, but they changed its shape. Daniel looked at his son and realized how often he had mistaken control for care. Where were your security officers today? He asked. Noah's eyes dropped. I asked them to wait near the entrance. I said I wanted 10 minutes alone. Daniel felt fear rise again, but he did not let it speak first. Why did you need to be alone? Because everyone always watches me. Noah looked at him then. Amara did not watch me. She stayed with me. Daniel lowered his voice. There is a difference? Yes. Watching is waiting for something to go wrong. Staying is making sure someone is not alone when it does. Daniel leaned back, stunned by the clarity of the answer. He thought of the crowd at the park, the raised phones, the empty circle around Noah, and one small girl kneeling in the grass. A gentle knock came at the door. Evelyn Brooks entered first, carrying a canvas tote bag. Amara followed in the same purple sweatshirt, her blue bracelet bright against her wrist. Noah's face changed immediately. Relief softened every line of it. You came, he said. You asked, Amara replied. Daniel stood and moved aside, giving her the chair closest to the bed. Evelyn remained near the doorway, watchful but calm. Amara sat down and placed a folded paper on the tray. I made you something. Noah opened it carefully. It was a hand-drawn map of the park, with the lake, the fountain, and the bench marked in colored pencil. A blue line led from the bench to a small house beneath a yellow sun. At the bottom, Amara had written, You found your way back. Noah smiled for the first time that day. I do not remember all of it, he said. You do not have to, Amara answered. I remember enough for both of us. Daniel watched them, then stepped quietly into the hallway with Evelyn. Through the glass, he saw Noah point to the blue bracelet. Amara touched one bead and explained something that made him laugh. She reached him faster than I could, Daniel said. Evelyn looked through the glass. She was not trying to reach him. What do you mean? She was trying to stay where he already was. Daniel absorbed the words in silence. Inside the room, Noah lowered his voice, but Daniel could still hear him through the partly open door. I did not want my dad to know, Noah told Amara. I thought he would change everything again. Amara glanced toward Daniel, then back at Noah. Maybe he keeps fixing everything because no one tells him what is really broken. Daniel stood outside the room with his hand resting on the doorframe, realizing that for the first time, his son had finally told someone the truth, and it had not been him. The next morning, Noah was discharged with instructions to rest, avoid strenuous activity, and return for a follow-up appointment later that week. Daniel brought him home to the Whitmore estate, but the house felt different now. The tall windows, polished floors, and quiet staff had always seemed orderly. That morning, they felt distant. Noah sat at the kitchen island in a gray sweatshirt while Daniel made toast badly enough that the edges burned. Neither of them mentioned it. For once, Daniel did not answer the messages flashing across his phone. He placed it face down and asked, Do you want to tell the school what happened, or would you rather I do it? Noah looked surprised by the choice. Can we do it together? Yes, Daniel said. Together. Before they could begin, Claire Donovan arrived without waiting to be invited. She entered carrying a tablet and a folder filled with printed reports. Her expression was composed, but her steps were faster than usual. The situation is growing, she said. The video has been reposted thousands of times. Several outlets are asking whether the girl interfered with Noah's care. Noah stiffened. Daniel noticed. Her name is Amara, he said. Claire set the folder on the counter. I know her name. I also know that protecting her publicly could expose this family to questions we cannot control. She helped him. That is one possibility, Claire replied. Noah pushed his plate away. It is what happened. Claire turned toward him with a careful smile. Noah, I know yesterday was frightening. Memory can become confused after a medical event. I remember enough. Then you should rest, she said gently. Adults will handle the rest. Daniel watched Noah's shoulders draw inward. It was the same movement he had seen in the hospital when fear became silence. No, Daniel said. Claire looked at him. No what? Noah stays. He is part of this conversation. Claire's expression tightened for only a second. She opened the folder and slid a printed image across the counter. It showed Amara holding Noah's backpack. The frame was blurry, but the implication was clear. This is the image people believe, she said. If you defend her before the complete facts are known, you could create more damage. Then find the complete facts, Daniel replied. I already requested the park recordings. How long will that take? Possibly several days. Claire lowered her voice. Until then, silence is the safest strategy. Daniel looked at Noah. His son was staring at the image, his face pale with anger. Silence. For whom? Daniel asked. Claire did not answer directly. For everyone. By noon, the story had spread beyond social media. A local television station showed the same shortened video beneath a headline questioning what happened in the minutes before paramedics arrived. Amara's face was partly visible. Her blue bracelet was unmistakable. At her apartment, Evelyn turned off the television, but not before Amara saw the words beneath the screen. She sat at the small kitchen table with her hands folded around a glass of water. They think I stole from him, she said. Evelyn pulled out the chair beside her. Some people believe what they are shown first. Mr. Whitmore knows I did not. Evelyn did not respond quickly enough. Amara looked at her. He does know, right? He should. That afternoon, Evelyn walked Amara to the community center near the park, where Amara attended an after-school reading program twice a week. The director met them outside instead of welcoming them in. She spoke softly and looked embarrassed. There have been calls from parents, she said. Until this is cleared up, it may be better if Amara stays home. Amara stood very still. Did I do something wrong? No one is saying that. Then why can I not go inside? The director opened her mouth, but no honest answer came. Evelyn took Amara's hand and led her away. Across town, Daniel sat in his office watching the same report. Claire stood near the window. We need 48 hours, she said. No statement, no interviews, no contact with the Brooks family. Once the attention fades, we can release something measured. Daniel thought of Amara's rules on the wall. Listen first. Help second. Never walk away. She is being blamed for helping my son, he said. And if we move too quickly, the story could become more aggressive. It is already aggressive. Claire stepped closer. Daniel, you built your company by knowing when not to react. This is not a company. Everything around you becomes part of the company, whether you like it or not. Daniel looked down at his phone. There was a message from Evelyn. It contained only one sentence. Amara was asked to leave her program today. He read it. Twice. Then he locked the screen. We wait, Claire said. Daniel hesitated. Fear, reputation, and habit pressed against him from every direction. At last, he said, until we have the full video. Claire gave a small nod and left. Daniel remained alone in the office, telling himself that waiting was responsible. At home, Noah had heard enough from the hallway to understand what his father decided. He entered the office without knocking. You are not saying anything? He asked. Daniel stood. I need the complete evidence. You have me. Noah, this is complicated. No, it is not. His voice shook, but he did not look away. She stayed when everyone left. Daniel took a step toward him. I am trying to protect you. Noah backed away. Then why are you leaving her now? The question struck harder than anything Claire had said. Daniel had no answer ready, and in the silence that followed, Noah saw the truth before his father was willing to name it. Daniel Whitmore had finally learned how to listen, but when courage demanded that he speak, he had chosen silence. The next morning, Amara returned to Piedmont Park with Evelyn, not because she wanted to see the bench again, but because she remembered something no one else had asked about. Near the lake trail, a street musician had been playing violin beneath the oak trees when Noah collapsed. His open case had rested beside a small phone mounted on a stand, recording his performance for social media. Amara had noticed the red light because it flashed each time the wind moved the leaves. He might have recorded everything, she told Evelyn. They found him near the stone fountain, packing sheet music into a worn leather folder. His name was Samuel Price, a retired music teacher who played in the park 3 afternoons a week. When Amara explained what happened, he studied her face, then the blue bracelet on her wrist. I saw the news, he said. I did not like the way they told it. He opened his phone and searched through several videos. The recording began with music, passing bicycles, and children running near the trees. Then Noah appeared at the edge of the frame. 3 older boys stood several feet behind him. Their voices were too distant to understand, but their movements were clear. One boy lifted the black medical pouch from Noah's open backpack and held it above his shoulder. Noah reached for it. The boys moved away, laughing and passing the pouch between them. A few seconds later, one of them tossed it toward the bench. It struck the grass and slid underneath. Noah ran after it, slowed, and collapsed before reaching the bench. The violin stopped. People turned. Several adults raised phones. Then Amara entered the frame at a run. She knelt beside Noah, pointed toward a man in the crowd, placed her backpack to block the sun, and searched beneath the bench until she found the pouch. Evelyn covered her mouth. Amara watched without speaking. The video showed every moment the shortened clip had removed. It also showed something else. A woman wearing a gray coat approached Samuel after the ambulance arrived. Her face was partly turned away, but the identification badge clipped to her purse carried the Whitmore Company logo. She spoke to Samuel, pointed at his phone, and handed him a business card. "Do you remember her?" Evelyn asked. Samuel nodded slowly. "She said she worked for Mr. Whitmore's communications office. She asked me to send her any footage before I shared it publicly." "Did you?" "I sent a copy that evening." Amara's fingers tightened around the blue beads. "Before the other video was on television?" "Yes." Samuel looked troubled. "I assumed they would use it to correct the story." Evelyn asked him to replay the final minute. The gray-coated woman stood beside Claire Donovan near the park entrance. Claire accepted the phone, watched part of the recording, and then lowered the screen. The complete truth had reached her before she advised Daniel to remain silent. By late afternoon, Amara and Evelyn stood outside the Whitmore estate with Samuel beside them. Daniel came to the door himself. His face changed when he saw Amara. "I was going to call you," he said. "But you did not," she replied. Daniel accepted the words without defense. Evelyn held up Samuel's phone. "You need to see this." They entered the library, where Noah was resting on a couch with a book open across his knees. He stood when Amara walked in. "Are you all right?" he asked. "I am," she said. "But people still think I did something wrong." Samuel connected his phone to the television. The room filled with the sound of violin music and distant park noise. Daniel watched Noah appear on the screen. He watched the older boys take the pouch. He watched his son run after it. He watched Amara arrive while adults stood still. Then he saw Claire near the entrance, receiving the complete footage from her assistant. Daniel did not move when the video ended. His face had gone pale. "She had this," Noah said. Daniel looked at the dark television screen. "Yes. And you listened to her instead of me." The words were quiet, but they carried no uncertainty. Daniel reached for his phone. Amara stopped him. "Not yet." He looked at her. She stood in the center of the library, small beneath the tall shelves, but there was nothing fragile about her voice. "You always call someone to fix things," she said. "First, you need to decide what you are fixing." Daniel lowered the phone. "Tell me." Amara glanced at Noah, then back at him. "This is not only about the video. It is about what people believed because nobody important told them to stop. It is about the community center asking me to leave. It is about your son telling the truth and still not being enough." Daniel's shoulders sank beneath the weight of every choice he had made since the park. "You are right." "I know," Amara said. "But knowing is not the hard part." She removed one blue bead from a loose thread at the end of her bracelet and placed it on the table between them. "You get one chance to decide what kind of father he sees." Daniel looked at the bead, then at Noah. His son was not angry now. That would have been easier. He was waiting. Daniel picked up the bead and closed his hand around it. "Samuel," he said, "may I have a copy of the complete video?" Samuel nodded. Daniel turned to Evelyn. "May I speak publicly about what happened, without naming your address or sharing anything Amara does not approve?" Evelyn looked at Amara. Amara answered for herself. "You can tell the truth. Do not turn me into an advertisement." "I will not." Daniel called Claire and asked her to come to the office immediately. His voice was calm, but the calm no longer came from control. It came from decision. When the call ended, Noah stepped beside Amara. "What happens now?" he asked. Daniel opened his hand and looked at the single blue bead resting in his palm. "Now," he said, "I stopped waiting for someone else to do what I should have done yesterday." By the time Daniel Whitmore arrived at the downtown corporate headquarters, the sky over Atlanta had shifted into a dull steel gray, the kind of color that made glass buildings look heavier than they really were. Claire Donovan was already inside the executive conference room, seated at the long table with a printed brief, several screenshots, and a timeline of events laid out in precise columns. Daniel entered without greeting anyone. Noah was not with him today, but his absence felt louder than any presence in the room. "We are going to release a statement," Daniel said. Claire looked up immediately. That was not the agreed plan. Plans change when they are wrong, Daniel replied. He placed a small blue bead on the table. It rolled slightly before stopping near the edge of the documents. Claire frowned. What is this? A reminder, Daniel said. That I almost waited too long. He turned on the screen at the front of the room. Samuel Price's full recording began to play. The room filled with sound from Piedmont Park, footsteps on gravel, distant laughter, wind moving through trees. Then Noah appeared on the screen, followed by the group of older boys near the lake trail. Claire straightened in her chair as the footage continued. The pouch was taken, tossed, and thrown beneath the bench. Noah ran after it and collapsed out of frame. The recording did not stop there. It showed Amara entering, kneeling, speaking to strangers who ignored her, and carefully retrieving the pouch from beneath the bench. It showed her instructing someone to call emergency services while remaining beside Noah without hesitation. A silence spread through the room as the video reached its final seconds. Daniel did not look at Claire. You had this before I left. The hospital, he said. Claire's voice stayed controlled. I received an early copy, yes. And you did not show me. Because it was incomplete at the time and could have created unnecessary escalation. Daniel turned toward her. It was complete enough to see the truth. Claire adjusted her posture. Truth is not always what is useful in real time. Noah's voice broke the tension from the doorway. He had come in quietly, unnoticed. You knew she did not take my things, he said. Claire turned slightly toward him. Noah, you are recovering, and you should not be involved in this level of discussion. I am the reason this started, Noah replied. Daniel stepped closer to his son. No, you are not. Noah shook his head. If I had not fallen, none of this would have happened. But that does not mean she should be blamed. Daniel looked at Claire. End the release delay. Claire hesitated. If we publish now without framing, we publish the full video, Daniel interrupted. No framing. No selective edits. No interpretation. Claire stood slowly. That will expose internal handling decisions. Daniel did not blink. Then let them be exposed. Within hours, the complete recording from Piedmont Park was released through Whitmore media channels without commentary. The response was immediate. News outlets that had circulated the shortened clip began retracting statements. Social media feeds shifted rapidly as viewers compared the earlier version with the full footage. At Evelyn Brooks' apartment, Amara watched the television quietly as the correction aired. She did not smile. She simply sat still, holding her blue bracelet as the narrator confirmed what had been missing. Evelyn stood near the window, arms folded. They will talk about it for a while, she said. Then they will move on. Will they still think I did something wrong? Amara asked. Evelyn paused. Some people always need time to unlearn what they rushed to believe. There was a knock at the door later that evening. Daniel stood outside alone, no driver, no assistant, no camera crew. He held a small folded document in his hand. Evelyn allowed him in without speaking. Amara remained seated. Noah was not with him this time. Daniel placed the document on the table, but did not slide it forward. This is a formal statement of correction from my company, he said. It acknowledges what happened at the park and clarifies your role. Amara looked at it, but did not touch it. Why are you giving it to me? Daniel hesitated. Because it is about you. It is not about me, she said. It is about what people were willing to believe before they asked. Daniel nodded slowly. Then tell me what you want done. Amara studied him carefully. I do not want to be a story people use when it is convenient. Daniel absorbed the words without interruption. Then I will make sure your name is not used that way. Noah stepped into view from the hallway. He had followed Daniel without being noticed. He walked directly to Amara and stopped beside her. They stopped saying you did something wrong, he said. At school, they showed the full video today. Amara looked at him. Did you watch it again? Yes, Noah said. I wanted to remember it correctly. Daniel watched the exchange in silence. Noah continued. My father said he is changing how things are handled now. Amara glanced at Daniel. Changing is easy to say. Daniel met her gaze. Then do not believe the words, he said. Watch what I do next. Evelyn finally spoke. Actions will take longer than words. Daniel nodded. I understand that. He looked at Amara one more time. Thank you for staying when no one else did. Amara answered quietly. Next time, do not wait so long to stay for someone else. The words did not accuse him. They simply ended the conversation. Daniel left without adding anything else. Outside, the evening air over Atlanta was cooler, And for the first time since the park, he did not reach for his phone immediately. Instead, he stood still for several seconds, thinking about how quickly people had been willing to believe the wrong version of events, and how slowly he had chosen to correct it. The morning after the public correction, Atlanta felt different in a way that could not be measured by headlines alone. The story had already moved through news cycles, but the effects remained in quieter places: school, hallways, neighborhood parks, and small community centers that had once closed their doors too quickly. At Piedmont Park, the bench near the lake trail was empty again, but not forgotten. Noah returned there with Daniel, not as a patient or a subject of concern, but as a boy who wanted to understand the place where everything had changed. Amara and Evelyn arrived shortly after, walking together along the same path where the ambulance had once stood. There was no crowd this time, no phones raised, no uncertainty hanging in the air. Just four people sharing a silence that felt steadier than before. Noah stopped near the bench and looked down at the grass. "This is where it started," he said. Amara nodded. "And where it did not end." Daniel stood a few feet behind them, watching without interrupting. For the first time in days, he was not trying to manage the outcome of a moment. He was only present inside it. Noah turned toward Amara. "They showed the full video at school," he said. "Everyone saw what really happened." Amara looked at him carefully. "And what did they say?" Noah hesitated. "Some people said they were sorry. Some did not know what to say at all." Amara accepted that without expectation. That is how learning looks sometimes. Daniel stepped forward slightly. "The community center reopened your program yesterday," he said to Amara. "I asked them to reinstate it with full funding and no conditions." Amara did not respond immediately. She glanced at Evelyn, then back at him. "I do not want it to reopen because of me," she said. Daniel nodded. "It is not because of you alone. It is because it should not have closed in the first place." Evelyn crossed her arms. "Accountability should not require a child to suffer first." Daniel accepted the statement without defense. "I agree." Noah sat down on the edge of the bench. "I do not want people to remember only the worst part," he said. "I want them to remember what she did before that." Amara sat beside him, leaving a small space between them. "Then we do not let them decide what the story is," she said. Daniel watched them both, realizing how easily adults had filled silence with assumptions, while children had filled it with clarity. A small group of park staff approached from the path, carrying a simple wooden sign. One of them, a woman in a navy jacket, spoke gently. "We were asked to reinstall this." They placed the sign near the bench. It read, "Listen first. Help second. Never walk away." Amara looked at it without smiling, but her shoulders relaxed slightly. "That was here before," she said. "It was just not noticed." Noah turned to Daniel. "Are you still going to change things?" Daniel did not hesitate this time. "Yes." Over the next weeks, changes began quietly, not announced with speeches, but implemented through decisions that did not require attention to exist. Security protocols at Daniel's company were revised to prevent assumptions from becoming conclusions. Training programs were introduced for public safety teams in partnership with the city, focusing on response before judgment. The community center program Amara attended expanded into 2 additional neighborhoods, with Evelyn invited to help design the curriculum. Through it all, Amara did not appear in interviews or public campaigns. When asked, Daniel declined every request that attempted to turn her into a symbol. "She is not part of a message," he said. "She is part of what should have always been normal." At the hospital follow-up appointment, Noah was cleared fully by Dr. Hannah Cole. Before leaving, he stopped in the hallway and looked at Daniel. "Can I walk in the park alone now?" Daniel paused, thinking not of control, but of trust. "Yes," he said slowly. "But we agree on what that means first." Noah nodded. "It means I come back when I am done. And you tell me if something does not feel right," Daniel added. "And I tell you," Noah agreed. Amara was waiting outside the hospital steps with Evelyn. Noah joined her immediately. The 4 of them stood together for a moment, not as separate sides of a past misunderstanding, but as people sharing the same present. Amara lifted her wrist slightly, the blue bracelet catching the light. "I added another bead," she said. Noah smiled. "So did I." He held up a small white bead in his palm. "From today." Daniel watched them exchange the beads, then stepped forward together toward the sidewalk. There was no dramatic ending, no final speech, no transformation announced to the world. Only movement forward, quieter than the moment that had brought them together, but more certain. As they walked, Daniel remained behind for a moment longer, looking at the bench by the lake trail. He understood then that the most important moments in life rarely announced themselves when they began, and even more rarely when they ended. They simply continued, shaped by what people chose to see and what they refused to ignore again.